We are back one more time with a bit more trouble in paradise with this particular guitar. Now this was the one where the fingerboard was lifting on this side and we glued it down. Matt had sent this up from South Carolina, and we all know what the truss rod is supposed to do. As you saw in that last video with the Guild and the Gibson J150 acoustic guitars, we needed to correct the frets at the top end. Pretty typical neck to body junction, and it's much the same even with the solid body electric guitars. But with this guitar in particular, there's so much discrepancy in the lay of the neck that I did talk to the customer about this, and we are going to do a refret on this one. Not because the frets are worn out, but because the lay of the neck is just not cooperating. So we are going to correct the wood of the fingerboard. So what I've done is I have put that little bit of load on the truss rod, not a lot. I've made contact and then given it about 1/3 of a turn. Now we're going to correct the fingerboard laser level along its length. Of course, we've got to start by removing the frets. So let's do that. So we have now blended all the discrepancies up at this end of the neck and the discrepancies at that first couple of inches up to the second fret. When I put that straight edge up now, I can still see a little bit of light here. So this is the middle of the neck. We barely even touched it. So what I'm going to use now to sort of finish this sort of final blend along the trajectory, the string path from the nut right past the last fret, is this 120 block. This is a 14-inch radius actually. It's really like a Les Paul radius on a Strat fingerboard. I think that's why Matt, fell in love with this thing, because you could do all those high bends. So what I'm using now is this 120 grit, sort of keeping in line with the string path. I'm going to check it in a second. Check that again. And that is pretty well perfect. Now I am going to check the truss rod in a second. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I actually have a bit of load on that truss rod, and I've trued that neck up laser straight end to end. And we're going to relieve that truss rod and see what we got. So I'm loosening off that truss rod now because I had a little bit of load on there, and you can see the light underneath the straight edge. Now when I tighten it back up, there we go. We have full truss rod function, and now we're ready to install frets. Well, who isn't a sucker for a banana cream Strat with a rosewood fingerboard? Done at last. New frets are in, leveled, crowned, and polished. And this is our compensated nut, 10 to 46, concert pitch. And now when we look along the length of the neck, we have adjustability. There's a slight amount of relief in there, and the truss rod is doing what the truss rod should do. Of course, these strings are completely fried after tightening and loosening and tightening and loosening, God knows how many times to get to this point. So I thought I would take a minute, gonna put a brand new set of strings on, this will be the final set, before we bring it into the house, plug it in, and let you really hear it. So I'm gonna humor you here, Matt, and just kind of show you exactly what you're going to have to do when you change strings. I know it's a royal pain in the butt. It's the only way around avoiding that return wind sitting like a clump at the focal point on the saddles. You saw that in the first video. So let's get started. Okay, so you're going to save those ball ends. So you're going to do this every string change. Save those 2 ball ends, thread them onto the new 6th string. Okay, there is our A string, and it also has 2 ball ends. Slip them onto the new string, and again you're going to have to kind of crimp the string a little bit to get it to fit. So we'll feed that in and get that into the notch. Now I want to take you down to the other end and show you what I'm doing to tension the string. So I'm cutting the string to length, but I'm keeping the tension on the string the whole time, otherwise it'll slip out at the other end. And as per usual, feed it into the hole in the post. Now, here's what I'm doing. I'm guiding it with my thumb, and I'm tensioning the string with these 3 fingers, maintaining that tension so that the other end doesn't slip out of the bridge. You can see why Fender ditched this design. If you know what you're doing, it's not a big deal. Okay, let's have a look at the D string. So you can see in the case of the D string it wasn't an issue, but it doesn't mean that the next D string that we're about to put on will not be an issue. Let's check it first. Okay, so do we have enough to avoid problems? Yeah, no, it's going to be okay. It comes right to the tip. I'm keeping that tension on the string so that that ball end doesn't slip out. Now if I remember, I think this one did have an extra ball end on. Yeah, this one just had 1 ball end. So I'm going to take that off. So I'll unravel that new string, take this ball end off, slip it on to the new string, and I'll check that again. Just give that a little bit of a bend, drop it into place, and yeah, we're good. Again, maintain that string tension. Okay, our second string, and we didn't need an extra ball end, that second string. Let's just double check it. Double check that new string before we go any further. Yeah, I'm going to give that a little bit of a bend, crimp it a little. Drop it into the notch. And I don't like the look of that. I'm going to put a ball end on this one. So there we go. So it really depends on the production run of strings. In this case, the last time we didn't need to put an extra ball end, but we definitely needed it this time. It wasn't needed last time, and it doesn't look like it's going to be needed this time either. No, it's not. Alright, moment of truth. Let's go check this thing out. So loop this in G major. So I'm going to let that play.